Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So I got a super fun, super exciting, and super confusing episode for you guys today because as of about 10 hours ago, a leaked purported trailer for Shenmue 4 was released onto a Shenmue forum. It is going to be very difficult to say if this is a real trailer or if it is some sort of AI creation. We're definitely going to be doing some pixel peeping today to find out if Ryu's actually coming back or if this is a figment of someone's imagination. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. Now, obviously, pretty much everyone, myself included, would love to see a Shenmue 4, because even if Shenmue 3 was a little bit janky, I really want to know where this storyline ends up going, because I've been playing Shenmue since the original release on Dreamcast, and it really is one of those cliffhanger stories that I think about every once in a while, wondering how it's actually going to resolve. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is obviously this footage has been shot off of a television. Now, there's two different reasons that could be done. One could be because the person didn't have access to the computer and somehow sneakily was able to record this whole trailer and leak it. Or two, it is a bit of subterfuge so that you can't actually get too close of a look at the textures, models, or any other of the visual details that would indicate if this was made using generative AI. Because obviously in 2025 it's becoming a thing where it can be very difficult to actually tell exactly what's going on in an image. Now, I'm not going to be freeze framing everything, but there was one model in the background of that restaurant scene that seemed to have a very odd or staccato movement to their body language. Now, it is as possible that Yu Suzuki and the rest of the YesNet team are using some sort of AI to fill in this scene. It is possible that this entire thing is done with generative AI and isn't real whatsoever. But as a filmmaker of 22 years and someone who actually deals in this, not using AI in my work, but just general production values, I definitely have at least a little bit of an eye here to try to figure out what's going on. And I will say, if this is AI, it is incredibly well done, because a lot of what Shenmue is the overall personality of the game, how Yu Suzuki would move a camera within a game and frame a cutscene, and kind of the overall quote-unquote vibes of Shenmue. That is something that is more difficult for an AI algorithm to really understand the facial expressions of Ryu and the rest of the characters, the overall movement and drama, and that they're kind of feeling like a remake of Virtua Fighter 3 on the Sega Naomi, as well as something like Dreamcast. But what we can take a look at is the trailer for Shenmue 3 and see if there's any shared visual imagery or other camera movements that would be indicative of this actually being a real Shenmue 4 trailer. And the reality is, a lot of the camera movements here, a lot of the angles and everything else are pretty closely mirroring what we see in the Shenmue 4 trailer. But now there is two sides to that coin. One could be that Yu Suzuki and his team have basically taken that technique and employed it again in Shenmue 4. The other side of the coin could be that a generative AI algorithm was fed every single cutscene from the original Shenmue 3 and then asked to make a fake sequel. Both of these things are possible, and it really is hard to say which one's likely. It's one of those things, there hasn't been a response from Sega yet, and at least as of the time of posting this, it has not been answered, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But if you are curious, around the 5-minute mark, about 5 minutes and 18 seconds, I have stabilized the image off the purported leak. That way we can get a little bit closer of a look at it. But pay attention to the camera movements here, pay attention to the depth of field and the overall cadence in the motion, and how Yu Suzuki and his team like to move a camera. That is important information because you kind of want to follow a style thread through this actual trailer, and at least in the motion cadence, some of the animations definitely seem a little bit different, but as far as how the camera moves, that depth of field, and the overall world building of this purported trailer, there are a lot of similarities. Now, I do not use generative AI in my practice, and I do not advocate for anyone to do so. It is one of those things I find that it is killing the overall industry, and it really is something that I know a lot of people that used to work in Chicago in film, especially corporate stuff, that are now sitting with absolutely no bookings and basically at risk of trying to change careers in their late 30s or early 40s. So if this is something done with AI, it's one of those things. No one's losing money, so it could be a really funny joke, but it is something that is kind of just toying with the overall Shenmue community, because you know full well we want another game, and this could possibly be it, or it could be one giant joke. But you leave me a comment down below and you tell me, so far in what you've seen, do you think this is actually real, or do you think it is something that somebody is just pulling a gag on us? Let's listen to the soundtrack, quote unquote, with the voiceover for about 45 seconds so you can get an idea of the audio quality and how that sounds, to see if you think that could be generative or real. So go ahead and listen, and I'll be right back with a lot more.
A little snow isn't gonna kill me. Do you remember Sunmin Zhao? Like this?
Exactly. Hold it right there. Ready?
I'm ready. What have I done? Zhao, please, forgive me. Keep friends.
It doesn't matter what he did. You will pay for taking my father's life.
Lan Di is merely a pawn. The true leader goes by the name Tente.
Tente?
This ends here.
I mean, it could be real Shenmue voice acting, it could be generative AI, because obviously Shenmue doesn't have the best voice acting ever, but the one thing that I did notice was this one screen right here. That tear is coming from her eyelashes, not from the bottom of her eye, and that definitely seems either supposed to be a raindrop or an eyelash. Now, it definitely isn't definitive of anything, just something I definitely noticed. But let's move over to that clip again, and now in DaVinci Resolve I am stabilizing this. I tried to play around for a minute in Super Scaler to see if I could get any sort of scaling going on, but because this is shot off a television and because it moves so much, it really is something that really wasn't possible for me to actually resolve, no pun intended, any more detail in the overall image. But at least now we can actually keep this thing centered in the most part at the action so we can get a closer look. Now pay attention in the background here in just a moment. There's going to be a bird flying around, and I'm either not sure if some of the frame pacing got weird in the wings right there, or if that was generative AI as well. Honestly, it's the little tiny details in the background that sometimes don't look great here in the trailer, but because this is potentially a work-in-progress trailer, and it was shot off a television on a phone, it can be impossible to say. And that is why if this is fake, it's why you're seeing it presented in this format. It hides just enough and obscures just enough so that you're not actually able to figure out exactly what's going on. And that can be the very confusing thing about something like this. The suspension of belief because you're excited that Shenmue 4 could possibly be coming can sometimes cloud your judgment and make you miss things that would be obvious, but they're going to be a lot less obvious if you shoot a trailer like this off of a television on a phone. But I will say the one thing that bothers me more than anything is this character moving in the background, because they have no frames of animation, and that definitely feels a little bit generative in the background. You'll see there it is only for a brief second, but it's in those brief seconds where sometimes tricks can be played and sometimes things aren't real, and that's kind of the telltale about them. Or again, the reality is it could be something that is just janky because the game is in development. It is impossible to say, but all of the obvious hallmarks here, if this was generative AI, are missing. Everyone has the appropriate amount of fingers. I haven't seen an extra finger. Everyone has the appropriate amount of limbs coming from the right place in their body, because a lot of times you'll basically see someone with 6 fingers, 4 fingers, 3 fingers, any sort of amount of fingers that wouldn't be the appropriate amount of 5. And that's kind of where you want to look at things here. Honestly, if this is a fake, it is an incredibly well done fake and can probably fool most people. And again, because this is shot off a TV, you can't really feed this file or this footage into any sort of AI checker to see what the result would be back, because honestly, it is not going to be effective because things aren't staying on screen in the way that you would expect them to. But I do think that this definitely has the feel of a Shenmue 4. It has the motion cadence, it has the flow in the footage, the overall facial animations, and those kind of dead eyes you'll see here with Lan Di that really do feel like Shenmue. Now, I'm not going to stake a claim on whether or not I really think this is real, because obviously I'm not going to be able to definitively say one way or another if this is AI or not. What I am going to say is I hope it is real, because I definitely want a Shenmue 4 the same way I want a Half-Life 3. I just want to continue in these games' worlds and see what more is going on, because obviously Shenmue started all the way back on Dreamcast and we still don't have a resolution to the story. And I do hope that if this is real, they don't leave it on another cliffhanger. Just give me an ending to this game so I can basically move on with the rest of my life understanding exactly what happens to Ryo and Lan Di and everyone else in the Shenmue saga. But you leave me a comment down below and you tell me, do you think this is real or not? If I was going to give this some sort of weight, it's 51% real, 49% probably generative AI. It really threads the needle to the point in time where it kind of feels like you could just be completely guessing. I could say it's fake and it ends up being fake, and I would say I know what I was doing. I could say it's real and it could end up being real, and I could say I know what I'm doing. But I would be lying to you and myself. All I can say is what I hope, and I genuinely hope that there is a Shenmue 4 going to be announced at some point in time, maybe at the Game Awards or otherwise. But that tear or rain coming from her eyelashes, definitely something that seems confusing. But again, it could be that actually Yzna is using AI in their development. We will never know until we either get confirmation of a Shenmue 4 or until we get confirmation that this thing is actually just one fake hoax. But if it is a hoax, the person that perpetrated it did a great job, and because it doesn't really harm anyone, if it is fake, it is a good laugh. But we're done. You leave me a comment down below, you tell me real or fake, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.